Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Does anyone know what time it actually is right now? 8:17, and that has 8:19 there. It's too fast. At least when the clock doesn't work, it's right twice a day. You don't have to worry about the seconds, just... Okay. You might want to correct the other one too. What's that? Yeah. Otherwise, it reminds me of India. Everywhere you go in India, there's a different time. If you're late, you can just bring your own clock. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 4, Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe. Text number 29, I guess. 29. Srinarda Vacha Ityukta Loka Guruna Tam Pranamya Divokasha Nyavaratanta Katod Vega Menire Chasuram Hatam Shinarduvacha Ityukta Loka Guruna Tam Pranamya Dvivokasa Nyavartanta Kato Dvivega Merine Chasuram Hatam Vinarduvacha Go Krishna. Hey Chasuram Hatam Dami. Shinarduvacha Ityukta Loka Guruna Tam Pranamya Dvivokasha Vyavaradanta Gato Vega Merine Chasuram Hatam Shinarduvacha. The great sage Narada Muni said, Iti, thus, Ukta, addressed, Loka Guruna, by the Supreme Spiritual Master of everyone. Tam, unto him, Pranamya, offering obeisances, Divokasa, all the demigods, Nyavaratanta, return, Kata Udvega, relieved of all anxieties. Me Nire, they considered, Cha, also, Asuram, the demon Hiranyakashipu, Hatam, killed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The great saint Narada Muni, Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master of everyone, thus reassured all the demigods living in the heavenly planets. They offer their respectful obeisances unto him and return, confident that the demon Hiranyakashipu was now practically dead. Purport. The less intelligent men who are always busy worshiping the demigods should note that when the demigods are harassed by the demons, they approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead for relief. Since the demigods resort to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, why should the worshippers of the demigods not approach the Supreme Lord for whatever benefits they desire? Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10 says, Akama sarva karmo va moksha kama udaradi tirena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Whether one desires everything or nothing, or whether he desires to merge into the existence of the Lord, he is intelligent only if he worships Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by rendering transcendent loving service. Whether one is a karmi, jnani, or yogi, if one wants a particular benediction fulfilled, even if it be material, one should approach the Supreme Lord and pray to him, for then it will be fulfilled. There is no need to approach any demigod separately for the fulfillment of any desire. Shri Narudavacha ikdyukta loka guruna tvam pranamya dvivokasa nyavartanta kato vega me nire chasuram hatam. The great sage Narada Muni continued, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master of everyone, thus reassured all the demigods living in the heavenly planets, they offer respectful obeisances unto him and return, confident that the demon Hiranyakashipu was now practically dead. Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shrunivadi Paskatyate Satarne. Bhagavatam is not like what they call a comic book. I don't know what they call comic books here. You know what a comic book is? These books that aren't really funny, but they have funny pictures in them of heroes, superheroes, Batman, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, so many different extraordinary personalities. And you know, as soon as you pick up the comic book, you know who's going to win. And it's not their adversaries. Even if the superhero dies, somehow or another he comes back to life again. So similarly, we may read the Bhagavatam and we may think, yeah, we know who's going to, we're up to this story, Hiranyakashipu versus Lord Nrsingadev. Ding. We know Lord Nrsingadev is going to knock him out and pull him apart. It's already decided, so we don't think, well, all right. At least in these books, Krishna always wins. But whether he wins in reality, in our own existence, that's a different thing. So that's what has to be considered. No matter how many instructions Srimad Bhagavatam may give us and examples, the real question is whether we actually believe that Krishna is going to win all the time. At least he's going to, if we take shelter of him, then we'll actually win ultimately. Therefore, the same message is repeated again and again and again throughout the Bhagavatam, throughout the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, he approaches his cowherd boyfriends, approach the yogic Brahmins to get some prasad, something to eat. And they reject him. Oh, he's just a cowherd boy. Balaram, he's just a low-class Kshatriya. We're Brahmins. Why should we listen to these people? They're useless. We're doing something real, a Vedic sacrifice. And then Krishna, of course, gets his cowherd boys to go to the wives of the yogic Brahmins, and they come and they bring prasadam, and they become Krishna conscious, and they're very ecstatic. And they go back, and their husbands also say that actually we're too sinful to have seen Krishna because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We should give up everything and go and see him, but we're afraid because we're afraid of Kamsa. And then the next story is Krishna sitting on a rock, and he's noticing that a lot of things are going on. Everyone seemed to be very busy doing something. So he asked his father, "Father, what's happening? What's going on? Why is everyone so busy?" He said, "Because we're making a sacrifice for Indra." "Really? Who's Indra?" You don't know Indra? He's the king of heaven. "All right, he's the king of heaven, but why are you making a sacrifice?" "Because he supplies the rain. And because we're agriculturists, we need rain to grow the grains, to feed the cows, and therefore we're dependent upon Indra, and every year we have a sacrifice for him." "Oh, really? But actually, why are you serving Indra? Why are you doing the sacrifice for Indra?" It's actually, the rains, they come because you're doing your work, your karma. So Krishna starts speaking karma amongst the philosophy. That you just do your work, and then the demigods are obliged to provide whatever you need because you're doing your duty. And even if you don't do your duty, still the demigods are throwing rain everywhere. They even pour rain on the ocean where no one's doing their duty. So why should you worry about Indra? Better, who we're dependent upon is Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill is doing something practical for us. It's giving the grass for the cows, the caves for our pastimes, etc., clear water from its lakes. So better to worship Govardhan Hill. In other words, Krishna did not encourage his followers to worship the demigods. Now, of course, as we know from the 10 offenses, that one of the offenses, the second one, is to consider the names of the demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to and independent of the names of Lord Vishnu. So, for us, there's no problem in the Western world. We don't believe in Brahma, we don't believe in Shiva, and we hardly believe in Vishnu. So for us, whether Vishnu is bigger than Brahma or Shiva makes no difference. We don't believe in any of them. Let them fight it out. No, instead we believe in rock stars and sports heroes and movie stars, and that's who we take as demigods and worship them. And how do we know we worship them? Because people spend vast amounts of money going to their productions, paying for if you have a sneaker or some shoe and it has its name on it, you pay twice as much. They're glued to the television, worshiping, looking at every move they're making, admiring them, trying to get their autographs, get their association. So people are worshiping not demigods, they're worshiping demons. So because people are in the mode of ignorance, they worship the Rakshasas, and because they're in the mode of passion, they worship the demons, asuras. Now, when there's actually culture, sometimes people worship demigods. But they may worship demigods in the modes of ignorance also. But at least they're in some kind of progress. As I mentioned before, in India, during the Durga festival, and the Durga festival in India, and especially in West Bengal, has anyone ever been there for the Durga festival? Can you describe it? We have our microphone.
I was happy to just quickly pass and not look too much.
So they have this, it's during, I guess it's around Gaur Punim time, isn't it?
Actually, it's in autumn.
Autumn. Oh, it's during Kartik?
Yes. And also, so Bengal, there will be goat sacrificed in some...
A lot of goats.
A lot of goats.
It's not good to be a goat that time.
There'll be parades, there'll be huge crowds of people, and there will be a parade and some altar every 15 meters. And so they really worship
Durga. And what happens at the end of the Durga Puja?
I'm not sure. I just try to pass the street as fast as possible.
Yeah. Well, what they do is they take the deity and they throw him into the Ganges. We've gotten what we need from you, and swaha. Good luck. We'll see you next year. And during this time, there was, if you've ever been to India, they have these speakers, huge speakers that they're blasting, so your brain your brain is vibrating with the speaker, moving back and forth. And they were singing this music, which you may not be familiar with, from Mary Martin's "The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music." You ever heard that? Do, a deer, a female deer, Ray, a drop of golden sun, me, a name I call myself, far away to run. Do, Ray. She's teaching the students how to, she's in, I think in Thailand, and she's teaching the king's children music. So it's called The Hills Are Alive, or The Sound of Music. It's a completely mundane production. And they're blasting it from the speakers. The hills are alive. This is Durga worship. Hills are alive with the sound of music. Because for them, anything material is first class. That's spiritual. So the devotees that were you can hear in the background, this blasting music going on. And the devotees asking Prabhupada, here we have the Durga worshippers, and they're just like crazy, fanatic, blasting this music everywhere, completely mundane. And who's better, the Christians or the Durga worshippers? So we'd expect Prabhupada would say the Christians, because they have some conception that there's a supreme God. Whereas no, the demigod worshippers, the Durga worshippers. Why? Because the Durga worshippers, at least they're part of the Vedic system. They're part of the Vedic culture. And by such worship, maybe in the future, they might understand and gradually become elevated and come to the platform of understanding who Krishna is, who God is, and begin to worship Him instead. So worship is there. As I said before, Prabhupada said to Professor Katofsky, the only difference is that you're following Lenin and we're following Krishna. You have to follow someone. You have to find someone superior and worship them. From the beginning of our life, we have our mother and father. You have no choice. You got that by karma. And they had to speak, even how to walk. All comes, you have to learn from them. If you're wound up in the jungle, devoid of any human civilization, then you have to learn from, as sometimes they found people in the jungle, brought up by monkeys. So you become a monkey. You walk like a monkey. You can understand what the monkeys are saying. You eat like a monkey. In other words, for all intents and purposes, you become a bona fide monkey without the hair. Well, you get some hair, but not so much. You're a weird monkey, that's all. Everyone looks at you and say, are you a monkey? Yeah, I'm a monkey. Okay, well, always a strange one in the crowd. So we all have to learn. Mahatma, dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena kata sabhanta. Everyone has to take a leader. There's no way we can't take a leader. We take a leader all the time. Leaders. Of course, in modern society, there's more or less leaders are becoming all the same. Eat, sleep, and enjoy. And you're more than anyone else. Beg, borrow, steal, but get ghee. Andayatan dheropagiyamanaste pisha tantra urudami bara. They're all blind leaders, and we're also blind. And therefore, we don't mind following them, because to whatever extent we're blind, we follow the blind leaders. And then the Bhagavatam's introducing Krishna, that we should follow Krishna, and we should follow Krishna's devotees, and we're conflicted because we're so loyal to so many other leaders. We've been brought up following so many other leaders, and our mind is saying, how can you abandon your leader? you're unfaithful. And we're hearing Krishna's God. He's the leader. We should follow him. And then Krishna has his representatives, and we may like them, we may not like them. If we don't like them, then we usually go somewhere where we can serve the leaders that are telling our mind, because the leaders have incarnated themselves in our minds and are directing us by our mind. They don't have to be personally present to direct us. Their influence is felt within our mind. They're feeling separation from them, remembering them, their instructions, how they look, how they smelled, is all within our mind. And we follow them. Yes, I want to please them. I want to follow them. I want to become exactly like them. I also want to be there on the stage, shouting like a jackal, with someone stepping on a jackal's tail. I also want to and everyone go, oh, my God, let me surrender to you. Did you hear him shout and cry and scream? That's fantastic. So our minds are telling us, you can also do it. Just become a faithful follower. Now in the Vedic culture, people had demigods to worship. The difference was what they worshiped them, and everyone had their demigods to worship, and everyone had their story to tell how they were successful worshiping the demigod, what kind of benedictions they got from worshiping the demigods. Just like nowadays, if you want to buy toothpaste and you go on Amazon.com, you go to the comments. There's always, this toothpaste got 5 stars. You think, I brushed my teeth with a toothpaste and I smiled and all the ladies fell down and surrendered. 5 stars. Or someone else gives it 1 star, I brushed my teeth fell out. So we have to choose who our leader is, and we're taking testimony from people who have experienced, our acharyas with experience. And here we have Krishna, Bhagavatam, and don't worship the demigods. So no problem for us, because where are the demigods? We have no demigod to worship. It's not a big deal to us. But again, we have to put it in our practical terms. Are we actually following others in Krishna? Is our mind actually always, fixed on Krishna? And if it's not always fixed on Krishna, where is it going? Which leader is it going to? Whose instruction is it following? Am I actually meditating on what Prabhupada, what Krishna wants, what the devotees want? Is that my meditation? Am I doing that after I get realization from Krishna? Or my mind's coming up with some idea and I'm thinking, yeah, this is, sounds pretty good to me. And we don't even know who we're serving when we're following that desire. It's just too far back in our minds. We can't remember. But it was some desire we had. Some great personality we thought was great and laudable and servable, and we wanted to follow them. And now that idea is coming up in my mind, and I think, well, maybe let me try it out. Let me taste this and see what it's like. It looks like this person was tasting something. Let me see if I can taste it too by following this direction. So in that way, the material world goes on. Everyone is choosing some leader. For the people in the mode of ignorance, Hiranyakashipu here, or Ravana. There's even a Purana or some kind of scripture where Ravana is the hero. There's a Ramayana where Ravana is the hero. So if you appreciate Ravana, you can read that Ramayana and don't worry about this rascal, Lord Ramachandra. It's actually Ravana who's actually the hero of the Bhagavatam, of this Ramayana. What was that? There was one story when, even here, they're claiming that actually, Shishupal, when his friend, Shalva, was fighting against Krishna, and he claimed that actually Krishna killed Shishupal when Shishupal was a little absent-minded, and therefore Krishna was able to kill him with a Sudarshan chakra when he was looking the other way, practically. So everyone's going to claim that their hero is actually the real hero. And if he died, it was, by the hands of God. He was actually the hero anyhow, because actually Lord Ramachandra is the rascal, he's the demon, and Ravana is the actual Mahajan. So everyone has that in their mind. We may not be conscious of it, but that's what we think. He's our hero, he's someone we should follow, he's someone we should understand and realize, and therefore the whole world is misdirected in different ways. All the while thinking we're making progress. We have our Albert Einstein, we have our Freud, we have our so many different personalities, Darwin. And this is what people's heroes, what to speak of Marilyn Monroe, or I don't know who's popular nowadays, I kind of dropped out a long time ago. But so many, Marilyn Monroe, or what was that guy, what was his name? The dancer, who used to dance a lot. Michael Jackson, yeah. And probably people still, remember, Michael Jackson, feeling separation, watching the old movies of Michael Jackson, hey, Rob. Just watching him, yeah, my God, if only he can return again. The second coming of Michael Jackson. We're waiting for him. We can go to Michael Jackson Loka, live there forever. So the point is, why is this applicable to us? Well, we have to, if we're not thinking about Krishna, then we're thinking about some other hero. If we're not thinking of one of Krishna's incarnations or of Krishna's devotees, and we're not trying to follow their instructions, then we're serving, but we're serving someone else's instructions. We're serving some other person we think is worshipable. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. You have the microphone so you can just see it.
So every time we see how in this ongoing battle between demigods and demons, demigods cannot overcome the demons by themselves, and then therefore they go to Vishnu for help. So I was wondering, is this sort of to depict how without taking shelter of the Lord, we cannot overcome Maya or like demoniac qualities?
Well, that's one thing. The other thing is even to become, we have Chatura Vida Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritina Arjuna Artha Jignasya Artharati Gyani Chabharatar Shiva. So 4 kinds of pious people approach Krishna. Those who are in distress, those who want some material comfort, those who are inquisitive, and one who's actually trying to find out what the absolute truth is. So they approach Krishna in order to get their desires fulfilled. Alasya Neha Sharanam Pitaro Nashingha Nartasya Chaganam Udvanvito Majito now. That without Krishna's assistance, the child will not grow up, even if it has nice parents. Without Krishna's assistance, the medicine may be very good and the doctor may be expert, but the patient still dies. Without Krishna's assistance, the boat may be strong, but it may sink anyhow, like the Titanic or whatever it was. So the point is, Krishna is behind everything. And even for material success, we should not forget Krishna. Even when we have some material desire, Gajendra approached Krishna because he had a severe pain in his leg. So he needed medical assistance. So he approached Krishna, and Krishna cured his foot problem. Dhruva Maharaj was feeling a little constricted. He didn't have enough land. So he approached Krishna, and Krishna gave him enough land. Similarly, the sage of Namamisharanya were asking a lot of questions, and after they killed Maharshan was killed, they had no one to turn to answer their questions, so they went to Sutta Goswami, and their questions were answered. They were inquisitive. And the 4 Kumaras, they were going everywhere, trying to figure out where they were and what the purpose of life is, and then they became enlightened by Lord Narayan. So everyone has to take shelter of Krishna. Dhruva Maharaj took shelter of Krishna. Gajendra took shelter of Krishna. The sages of Naimisharanya took shelter of a pure devotee of Krishna. The four Kumaras took shelter of Lord Narayan. So even for material success, we have to take shelter of Krishna. And if we don't take shelter of Krishna, we may follow someone else. But ultimately, when we trace it back, Krishna is there, someone in the disciple succession. Any success is all due to Krishna to one degree or another. So even when we think that we're following someone and becoming expert at something, but we don't understand that actually when we trace it all back, they're all in some kind of disciple succession which connects back to Krishna's teachings. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Because after all, just one more. Krishna says, I'm the ability in man. So that means, and I'm giving everyone remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So we may give credit to others, but ultimately it's the super soul who is directing everything, not these so-called scientists or philosophers or even expert artists or athletes. It's Krishna who gives everyone intelligence. Yes.
People turn to demigods for some material desires. And in this purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes 2.3.10, Akama sarva kamava. It seems he's quoted this verse about 100 times.
Good way of remembering it.
That whatever you desire, better turn to Krishna. But then, if they do come to our temple, they will be immediately told that, don't you dare.
What's that?
They will be immediately told, if anybody wants something material and they come to our temple, they will be on minute 3, they will be told, don't you dare
what?
desire anything material or turn to Krishna for anything material.
Well, that's not what it says here. 100 times Prabhupada is saying something different. First of all, when people come to the temple, there are different people who come to the temple. People who are just coming to the temple, they walk into the temple. As I said before, Prabhupada was giving a lecture in Australia, and he was talking about the 4 regular principles. And some hippie walked in, and he just got up to the 4th regular principle, no illicit sex. And Prabhupada very strongly goes, and if they have illicit sex, then you kill them. And the hippie was like, walked in, oh, and he ran out. So generally speaking, we don't do that. So we don't immediately tell people when they walk in, what the 4 regular principles are. And I mean, Prabhupada was talking to devotees at that time. This particular gentleman wasn't there at the time. Just so happened that it was a coincidence. But we don't, when people walk in, especially if we organize our preaching properly, then we present Krishna consciousness in a way that's understandable and applicable in the people's lives. And not to worship demigods, as we can see here, throughout the Bhagavatam. That if you want to worship the demigods, then you can worship the demigods for some material purpose, like in the 3rd canto, 2nd canto. This is described, if you want so many things, you can worship the demigods. But the Bhagavatam is meant to ultimately convince us to worship Krishna, and you'll get the same thing if you want it. That's all. So it's just, we're not telling people give up all your material desires, because we ourselves can't give up all our material desires. But we're saying if you have material desires, then at least approach Krishna and he'll help you. And if he doesn't help you, then go to some demigod. You might go to some demigod. But we approach Krishna with the idea is that Krishna knows what's actually good for us and what's not good for us. Yes.
So can we have a lecture series for newcomers? Get wealthy in Krishna consciousness, get happy family life in Krishna consciousness.
Well, yeah, we know what real wealth is. We know what real happiness and family life is. So we definitely have that. Just accumulating so-called things and the numbers in the bank is not wealth. Even from the Vedic point of view, land that grows nice food and milk from the cows is wealth, not paper money, and a tin and a metal wooden car. That's not considered to be real wealth in the Vedic conception. And happy family life, we're supposed to have the happiest family life centered around Krishna. Nanda Maharaj and Jasoda Mai are the example of perfect family life. They've been together eternally. So we know the secret of perfect, harmonious family life. Anything else? Yes.
He was one Ayurvedic doctor who some years ago was helping to one devotee, and as I've heard, he kept saying that praying to God is the main point. Now, me personally, I would be a bit reluctant to pay a guy who based his treatment by relying on God. Now, my question is, can an atheistic conviction of some expert helps him think material mechanics better than to some person who is, I don't want to say, blinded by his so-called faith in God or so-called reliance on God?
First of all, I can't say how much faith this person actually had in God and how much he could convey that faith to others. But to blindly discount faith in God as a methodology, because in our Bhagavatam we have Vasudeva, the leper. He had faith in Krishna. Krishna came and embraced him, and his leprosy got cured. So having faith in God actually works sometimes. Having faith in persons who are ungodly, many times doesn't work. So many people are killed by their so-called doctors. So we can't discount it, but we have to see practically what kind of faith this person actually has in God and how they can actually convey it to others. First of all, the person has to know who God is, otherwise, what's the idea? If you don't know who the person is, how can you have faith in them? So there are many different things, but we can't blindly discount it, nor can we blindly accept it. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, since you mentioned the Govardhan Lila, there is a part which I don't understand very good, and I would like to ask you to a little bit elaborate. The part is where Krishna says, like, my dear father, for those who are liberal and saintly, there is no secrecy. They do not think anyone to be a friend, an enemy, or a neutral party, because they are always open to everyone. And even for those who are not liberal, nothing should be kept secret from the family members and friends. Although secrecy may be maintained for persons who are inimical. I don't understand, like, Krishna wanted that everybody is like open and there is no secrecy, but there is so many things who are...
He's talking about family members there.
Just about family members.
Well, that's what he said. He said there's two classes of people. That you should be seeing everyone as Krishna, as eternal spiritual souls. That's one class. So that's the topmost devotee, the Mahabhagavat. But he said even if you're not a Mahabhagavat, even if you're not acting on that level, still, we're family members. And therefore, because I'm your son, you shouldn't keep secrets from me. I'm not inimical towards you. So why not tell me? We're part of the family. We're part of the same team. We're working together. It's a team effort.
But this is in the real world very hard to do because there are so many. So why?
Well, Krishna is in the real world with his father. We're in an illusory world. That's why it's difficult. We think Krishna's world is illusory and our world is real. But actually we're asleep and Krishna's awake. And because we're asleep, we never know what's under the modes of nature. Therefore, we don't have clear discrimination. Therefore, we don't know who to say to what, when to say it. Sometimes, no one's quiet. It's better to try and think carefully before we say something. Do the best we can. If you're blind and you're in a trying to figure, you have to be a little careful. You just don't run down the street when you're blind. You have to go carefully. Yeah, we're all blind. We see things according to the modes of nature we're situated under. Although we're sure we see everything perfectly, but that's all part of the illusion. Okay, thank you very much. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.